If you could only buy one stock right now, which stock should you buy? In these uncertain markets, many of you have been asking that question, and we've been working hard to bring you answers. We asked 20 smart investors for their top picks, given the market turmoil. Coming up, we'll share those picks with you. But first, let's explain how these market pros went about selecting these stocks to kick off this week's Ticker Take.
It's Ticker Take, you know.
Okay, John, before we get to these stock picks, the market has been a little rough.
Yeah, Carolina official correction for the S&P 500, so a decline of 10% from its peak, but also one of the fastest corrections we've ever seen.
Yeah, and even though history suggests that stocks will bounce back, it still left some investors feeling uncertain.
Which is why we wanted to give you a sense of how professional investors are navigating that uncertainty.
Yeah, it's kind of like we're resetting the clock on 2025.
Totally. I mean, a lot has changed since the start of the year, so what are these pros doing now?
And we're going to hear from an amazing list of pros.
We are, and a couple things stand out. Some of these investors see opportunity in a fearful market. Others shed light on some recession-resistant businesses.
Okay, well, should we get to the list?
Let's do that. But first, a friendly reminder, this is not financial advice.
Stock number 1, Agnico Eagle Mines.
This pick comes from Laura Lau, Chief Investment Officer at Brompton Funds. And Agnico actually came up in our last video about gold and gold stocks. For Lau, this is a hedge against geopolitical uncertainty, a company that is known for being a solid operator, which operates in friendly mining jurisdictions and has a certain discipline towards being shareholder friendly.
Stock number 2, Air Canada.
This comes from Teal Linde of the Linde Equity Fund. In Air Canada, he sees a carrier that is in better shape than the one before the COVID pandemic, a rebuilt balance sheet, a company with a valuation that is below its historic norms, and a company that has shown a willingness to buy back stock, and insiders that have been buying shares as well. So a compelling turnaround for Teal Linde. By the way, if you're looking for U.S. carriers, Adam Johnson, who we'll hear from later in this video, sees a favorable valuation for Delta. So Delta, let's make stock number 3.
Stock number 4, Alphabet.
This pick comes from Kim Bolton of Black Swan Dexteritas. Bolton has been covering technology for a long time. In Alphabet, he sees a company dominant in search that he believes will be dominant in AI, with, as an example, Gemini, plus a compelling valuation. By the way, other smart investors who we'll hear from in this video, like John Zechner and Adam Johnson, are also fans of Alphabet.
Stock number 5, American Express.
This pick comes from Sam Stovall, the Chief Investment Strategist at CFRA Research. In American Express, CFRA sees a business that caters to higher-end consumers. So even if there are broad trends of consumers spending less, Amex may be less affected. By the way, CFRA covers dozens and dozens of stocks, so we're going to hear from Stovall with another couple of picks later in this video.
Stock number 6, Atkins Realis.
This pick comes from Andrew Pink of LDIC, who sees in Atkins Realis, which used to be known as SNC-Lavalin, an engineering and consulting services company that is growing faster than its peers, has an attractive valuation, has a nice balance sheet after selling its stake in the 407 highway in Toronto, and overall looks like a defensive business for uncertain times.
Stock number 7, Broadcom.
This pick comes from Tyler Ellegard of Gradient Investments. Now, not that long ago, investors couldn't get enough of Broadcom. Does the pullback create an opportunity? Here's Tyler's perspective.
My go-to pick for 2025 is Broadcom, ticker AVGO. The stock has pulled back 20% despite having a very strong quarter, with ASICs division running on all cylinders, $60-90 billion SAM by 2027, with another 2 customers coming on board shortly, and that is my pick for 2025.
Stock number 8, Carnival.
For this one, we go back to Sam Stovall at CFRA Research, and what that firm likes about this cruise operator is 2 things. Number 1, its ability to keep costs under control, and number 2, its ability to balance out pricing for its cruises versus occupancy levels.
Stock number 9, Celestica.
This one comes from John Zechner of J. Zechner Associates, and John has been looking at the technology landscape for opportunities. We referenced earlier that he likes Alphabet in the US, and in Canada, he likes Celestica. Have a listen.
One stock in Canada that has been beaten up significantly, down almost 40% peak to trough, so far this year has been Celestica, CLS, ticker in Toronto. And this is one of the best plays in Canada technology on the data center build-out, at the front end, at the back end, trading at a very reasonable valuation. Since the DeepSeek news, a lot of these stocks have come under pressure, more so since the tariff threats. But we haven't seen any downgrades of earnings or expectations, and the data center build-out will continue for at least the next couple of years, and these guys are as well positioned as anybody at a very reasonable multiple. So Celestica, we're looking to add back to it.
Stock number 10, Fortuna Mining.
This one comes from Ross Healy of Strategic Analysis Corporation. And in his view, and especially after speaking to management, this is a better gold name to be thinking about right now. Fortuna also has exposure to silver, but primarily is a gold play. In Ross's opinion, you've got reserves that are on the rise. You've got a company that operates in relatively stable political regions around the world. He likes cheap stocks, and this one trades at around book value. And in his view, they have a bulletproof balance sheet.
Stock number 11, GE Vernova.
This is the final pick from the team over at CFRA Research. And Sam Stovall, who we referenced earlier, highlights that you've got global demand for power on the rise, whether it's because of manufacturing or data centers to fuel AI. And that's creating a backlog, according to Stovall, and that should be encouraging for sales and earnings growth. By the way, Adam Johnson, who we'll hear from later in this video, is also a fan of GE Vernova.
Stock number 12, Legend Biotech.
This pick comes from Bob Iaccino of Path Trading Partners. And in Legend, Iaccino sees a company that is expected to see sizable top-line growth. Now, Legend focuses on life-threatening diseases. It has made huge inroads in the area of multiple myeloma. And while the company loses a lot of money, Iaccino notes they're expected to lose a lot less money this year. And when he looks at their clinical data and their cash position, he sees a long-term opportunity.
Stock number 13, Netflix.
This pick comes from James Demmert of Main Street Research, and if you listen closely to James's comments, he actually squeezed in 2 picks. Have a listen.
Netflix has a moat around their business, 37 times earnings. We think those earnings will come through all year round. Also, Taiwan Semi, Go Global, the best AI stock at 19 times earnings. Great year ahead.
Okay, so along with Netflix, Demmert also bullish on Taiwan Semiconductor, which will be stock number 14.
Stock number 15, NVIDIA.
NVIDIA came up with several smart investors we spoke to, including David Nelson of Belpointe Asset Management, Greg Newman of the Newman Group at ScotiaMcLeod, and Adam Johnson, who we'll hear from a little bit later in this video. Let's start with David Nelson of Belpointe Asset Management. As David looks at the landscape right now, he said this is the one company he'd have a hard time selling at this point, if only because of valuation. When you look at the revenue growth rate for the company, he's projecting it could be more than 50% this year. He makes the argument that even if the growth rate was half of that, NVIDIA at its current valuation would still look cheap. And let's compare that to Greg Newman at ScotiaMcLeod, who, like David Nelson, is looking everywhere for investment opportunities and certainly sees some favorable trends for U.S. financials, for the German market, for defense companies, and for energy infrastructure. But at the end of the day, when he looks at the growth trends for NVIDIA and its Blackwell chips, he still sees some upside for that technology giant. Speaking of tech, another tech stock that Greg Newman likes is Uber, so we will make that stock pick number 16.
Stock number 17, Pollard Banknote.
This pick comes from Colin Stewart of J.C. Clark. Now, Pollard is a company that is dominant in instant scratch lottery tickets. There are high barriers to entry, which is one of the reasons he likes the stock. It has a compelling valuation. It tends to be recession-proof. We saw that even during the 2008 recession. It's a company where governments are always looking to raise more money, so there is growth, and there has also been digital growth for this business.
Stock number 18, United Healthcare.
This pick comes from Brian Madden of First Avenue Investment Counsel. Have a listen.
This is the largest healthcare insurer in the United States, insuring over 50 million individuals. It's almost entirely domestic in scope and is resilient to economic downturn as it caters to needs, not wants. The company's grown its dividend 5-fold over a decade, and the recent pullback affords an excellent entry point.
Stock number 19, Waste Connections.
This pick comes from Dan Rohinton of IA Investment Management, and it's a pretty simple thesis. The The waste business can be a stable business, arguably a recession-proof business. And when you look at the company's pricing power and cost controls, to him, this is an attractive opportunity.
Stock number 20, Welltower.
This one comes from Neela White of Blue Wing Advisory Group, and she tracks aging populations. Welltower has senior housing and communities in countries like the UK, Canada, the United States. They've had steady financial performance. They've been savvy with deals. For example, they recently acquired the Amica portfolio.
Stock number 21, Wheaton Precious Metals.
This pick comes from Brianne Gardner of Velocity Investment Partners. Now, this is a precious metals streaming company, and Brianne notes that they benefit from rising silver and gold prices. They have diversified holdings and solid financials, making it a fairly safe pick in her opinion.
Stock number 22, Whitecap Resources.
This pick comes from Jamie Murray of Murray Wealth Group. Now, Whitecap just announced a big deal with Varen, and those two companies coming together, in his opinion, is a home run. Gives you some really nice access to the Montney and Duvernay formations in a relatively cheap way, so he sees a lot of potential upside.
Stock number 23, Wynn Resorts.
This pick comes from Adam Johnson of the Bullseye Brief. We mentioned some other stocks that Adam likes as well. In the case of Wynn, he looks at their Vegas business, he sees strong performance. He looks at their business in Macau, and he sees encouraging trends. And he also sees growth potential with their big plans for the UAE market. And at the end of the day, he argues this could be a recession-proof play. Now, beyond Wynn, Adam likes a lot of growth stocks, so we're going to add a couple more to our list here. He likes Joby, which he sees as the potential Uber of the skies, and he also likes SoFi, the digital banking play. So those are stocks 24 and 25.
Stock number 26, Zoetis.
Okay, this pick comes from Liz Miller of Summer Place Financial Advisors. Zoetis makes therapies for animals. This is Lola, our mini golden doodle. I know there's some economic uncertainty, but in Liz's view, people will still pay premiums for their pets. And while this is not the cheapest stock out there, they started the year with a dividend hike, so you get some income in the meantime. What do you think about that, Lola? All right, that's our list of stocks for today. Thanks to our market experts for sharing their investing wisdom for this video. If you want to learn about any of these investors, there's more in the description below. Thanks to Caroline Leslie. You can check out her socials. Thanks to Market Lab Newsletter for our graphics. Be sure to check out that investing newsletter. And speaking of investing newsletters, we put this video into our weekly Substack. Make sure to check that out as well. And most importantly, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next investing video. See you next time.